Hello and welcome to the circus.
I'm just so sick and tired. I'm hanging on a wire, a foot over the fire, and it's burning. I can feel it inside. Done with the same cliche, done with the day after day. There's got to be a way. Now is the time to break the tie. I'll live, I'll die for what is wrong and what is right. I'll take the pain for all the ones without a name. To be invincible, we'll be invincible. To be invincible, we'll be
Hello and welcome back into the Sunday live stream. It is week 13. Time to put some cans in the freezer.
Start the clock. Mr. Geezer, put cans in the freezer. And Robinson. And Robinson. Have a breezer.
Okay. We don't do that.
Why can't you do that?
No.
Get a couple of cans, put them in the freezer. Shirley and Lisa. We're gonna have a pizza. Do you know Rita? You don't know Rita? We're gonna have a pizza. Oi, oi.
Okay.
Fantastic. Okay. Boom, I've got all the letters, Susie. Blood clot. Fantastic. So I win, eh?
All right, so our first question of the day. Who should I start? PPR, DeAndre Swift or Breece Hall? Coming in with an easy one, it feels like. I'm going with DeAndre Swift. Breece Hall, monitor the injury. I think he got nicked up, but he should be playing through for what I know. He is expected to suit up. However, he's dealing with a hamstring, so that definitely makes me nervous. It's a tough matchup. The Atlanta defense is actually pretty decent, so I would definitely be going with the safer option. For me, it's DeAndre Swift all day. Which defense? Here's a good one. 49ers, the vaunted 49ers defense, but they're facing the Eagles, or the Chargers versus the Patriots. I'm definitely rolling with the Chargers there. I know that the 49ers are the better defense, but I'm going to roll with the idea that, Bailey Zappi or Mac Jones, whichever one it happens to be, they're definitely both bad quarterback options that you can pick on, it feels like. So I would be just fine starting Chargers defense today. This is an interesting one. Who to start? I'm already starting Mostert, Puka, or A-Shane. So the Rams have the Cleveland matchup. A-Shane, assuming A-Shane is active, it's really hard for me not to put him in all my lineups. That's something I should go check right now, in fact. So yeah, A-Chain, it's looking like he is active and good to go. He's off injury report. If he's playing, I'm playing Devon A-Chain, I think. Oh. So here's a league I have a struggle with. I have 5 good running backs, which is hard. It's rare to say, it feels like. Brian Robinson, David Montgomery, Najee Harris, and Jerome Ford. I have all of those guys. I actually think I'm gonna bench Brian Robinson. Even though it was so good the 2 weeks before, but that was with the receiving work. We saw last week against Dallas, it didn't really work out. And I think the Miami defense is underrated. But maybe Jerome Ford is the sit. Actually, you know what? I think that's what I'm going to do. We're going to bench Jerome Ford because I don't like the matchup on the road against the Rams. I don't like that he's got his backup quarterback. Maybe I end up being wrong there because he was averaging 7 a carry last week. And he's still been the primary in PPR formats. He's still getting you double digits every week. But I'm going for the upside. I'm going with A-Shane. So I'll be having to do that after and put A-Shane in all my lineups. It also means to me that Jeff Wilson, you can kind of cast into the abyss and not worry about him. Which I am actually doing right now. Okay. Just actively making my own moves at the same time. I just dropped Jeff Wilson for Greg Dortch in a main money league. Russell Wilson or Kyler Murray. How about a joke, Murray? Russell Wilson. Oh. Yeah, I'm going with Russ. I like the matchup a lot better. On the road against the Texans, they're both 6-5 teams. They can find themselves getting into a little bit of a shootout here. Whereas the Cardinals are the Cardinals, and they're on the road against the Steelers. And even though you can pass on the Steelers front seven should give Kyler problems. So I'm definitely rolling. I'm rolling with Russ. All right, T. Higgins or Taysom Hill in the flex. Now, here's a gross one. This is delicious. This is eating your vegetables if I've ever heard it. I think methinks. I'm gonna go with oh no. I'm going with Taysom Hill for the upside. Hilariously enough, with Jake Browning in, you can't be sure of T. Higgins' production considering that Jamar Chase barely got it done with like tipped balls last week. It's really gross, but I'm gonna roll with Taysom Hill there. Atlanta D versus Jets or Rams D versus Brown or no defense. I don't know why you would do no defense. I'm definitely going with Atlanta defense against the Jets. I'm playing every defense against the Jets. T. Higgins or Garrett Wilson. Even though it's a terrible matchup and everything is screaming in your face that like the Jets are horrible, Garrett Wilson finally, the floor fell out last week. We'll see if that floor comes back this week. Between him and T. Higgins, I'm going to go with Garrett Wilson because I feel like he's at least like the main target and he's going to see most of whatever gross targets are available. Whereas, Jake Browning is definitely going to be splitting, I feel like, between Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And I really need to see it first before I just throw T. Higgins into my lineup, especially if I'm a team that's like on the cusp and I'm trying to win out to get a playoff berth. Deontay Johnson or George Pickens in the same game. That is interesting. I actually benched Deontay Johnson last week. I am starting him this week, though, because the Arizona matchup, I feel like you can't go wrong. However, one of these wide receivers is going to be wrong. And I'm just not sure which one it's going to be. Now, Noah Brown is expected to play. If he was dropped on waivers, I would honestly take him. I would take Greg Dortch, who's had, 8 and 9 targets. It's still, even though the Pittsburgh Steelers offense looked a lot better, I just don't know if you can trust multiple passing options. Like, they basically had the same last week, 3 for 58 for George Pickens and then 4 for 50-ish for Deontay Johnson. So I honestly don't think it matters. That's one where it's literally 50-50. So I'm going to go with the guy I think is more the PPR play, and that would be Deontay Johnson. In the comments, my boy, Raphael Quinton, shout out to you. Cup. Oh my God. Cooper Cup versus Browns or Rashee Rice versus Packers. Can't believe I have to ask this. Neither can I. I can't believe it either. Rashee Rice with the breakout game last week. Going on the road, though, against the Packers. Is he gonna get Jairi? I don't think he would. I don't even know if Jairi is like active. That would definitely change my mind about some things. So let me go look at my IDP league for you here. I can just check in on Jairi Alexander. Yeah, he's questionable, dealing with a shoulder. He's only missed 5 games. He missed the last 3. Has a chance of returning. So that's the big question, really, is Jairi Alexander going to be available? And then if he's available, is he going to be on Rashee Rice? Because that's where I would really see a problem for Rashee. So that's something to monitor. If it was confirmed that Jairi Alexander was going to miss another week, I actually, crazily enough, think I would go with Rashee Rice here. But in any other situation, I'm just going to roll with Cup. In fact, I think I might roll with Cooper Cup regardless. This is starting to feel like we're both going to be trying to get cute. And this is going to be a bounce back Cooper Cup game. I've seen the Browns getting a couple shootouts and give it up on the defense through the air. Even though the front seven with Myles Garrett is really good and the safeties are good, the cornerbacks themselves, aside from the Ward kid, can be had. I think I'm going to roll with Cup. I'm just going to roll with Cooper Cup. He's the talent. I'm going to roll with the talent. I'm not going to try and get cute here. That's exactly how you kill yourself in fantasy, is like, Rashee Rice coming off a good week, Cooper Cup coming off a couple bad weeks, and you convince yourself that, Rashee Rice in the right matchup. But no, you got to go with the talent. All right. Pick one for the flex. Amari Cooper, Devon Achane, or Puka Nacua. That's a situation where it's my flex spot. I'm putting in Achane. Look, we're trying to make playoffs here, and if you have held Achane this long, a lot of my Achane teams are kind of mixed bag. They're either, on the cusp of trying to get into the playoffs, or, we're more of a higher seed and we've been able to just hold on to Achane and absorb the missed games. Like I was mentioning with my team there with the 5 running backs that have managed to survive. So that feels like a strong team with a lot of depth that's in the higher end of the seedings. I can't remember if I'm second or third right now, but I'm top 3 for sure in that league. And that's a home league where the prize is $1,000. So definitely big stakes on the line. Hey, maybe $1,000 isn't a lot to you, but it's a lot to me. And that's big stakes for a fantasy football league, I think. So again, I'm rolling with the upside. I don't like Amari Cooper because of the quarterback situation. I do like Puka Nacua, but it could end up being another week where he kind of misses out. The only time Devon Achane has played full games, he's had like just insane yardage and touchdowns. Like the one game that he had a bad game was because he banged the knee and he like had to he got pulled from the game. The fact that he's off injury report to me says that, you know, maybe they were being cautious and now he's going to be full go. If that's the case against the Manders, like to me, that's Achane all day. Sam Howell versus Russell Wilson. Which QB has the better day this week? I'm actually going to go with Russ. I just like, I think Miami's defense is underrated, and I think there's a misnomer that every team's going to get in a crazy shootout with them. And while Sam Howell does throw it all over the yard, I also think he can turn the ball over and take a lot of sacks. So I think for me, I'm going to roll decidedly with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson. He's just been kind of decent, Russ, and I like the matchup better. Against the Texans. I think that Denver Texans game, that's sneaky shootout territory. Stroud's been able to like push the scoring, and the Houston Texans defense is better than it was last year, but it is definitely not to the point that like they're stopping teams in, you know, any major capacity. So that's the one I'm rolling with. Again, pick one defense, Atlanta or Kansas City. In nearly every decision for defense, I'll have Atlanta ranked higher than the other team. I think they might be my number one defense on the week. Not even just streaming defense, number one defense on the week. If you're talking about Breece Hall has a hamstring, and if that acts up and he ends up missing any kind of game time, like you're down to Tim Boyle and Garrett Wilson as this offense. Like there's no way. There is no way I'm playing Atlanta 100%. I mean, if maybe the Jets, today's the day they show up, it would be indicative of just how insane and ludicrous and just against common sense and logic this season has been. Got some people coming in the comments here. Oh, look at that. I figured out how to show them finally. McPherson or Folk, my boy Raphael Quinton. Kickers are people too, eh? Man, Folk's, you know, been tremendous for most of his career, but I gotta go with McFearless because of the matchup and the fact that it's Browning. I feel like Browning, being the backup quarterback, it, you know, will maybe allow them to, like, you know, they still have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Mixon. It feels like they'll be able to like push the ball down the field and get close enough to kick some field goals, maybe not necessarily, you know, scoring a lot of touchdowns. So I'm rolling with McFearless there. Shout out to Heavy GM. Good morning, Joker. Downs, Singletary, or Nakua half PPR. Oh man. So the problem with Singletary, and I really want to say Singletary because he was still decent last week, even though he didn't get the touchdown. He got most of the work. Dameon Pierce, though, the longer he's back, the worse it is, because it felt like last week maybe they didn't quite give him as many touches as they were planning. And now this could be the week where they definitely are trying to work him more into the game plan, and that obviously affects Singletary. So I'm going to go with one of the wide receivers. And I think I'm going to roll with Downs. I think Downs is, to me, the most likely to score a touchdown is what it is. I do like Puka though. The problem with Puka is that we saw last week Stafford was able to just completely go away from that and win the game with Kyron and Tyler Higbee. And, I could see Puka Nakua. I could just as easily see him having 5 for 100. I could just as easily see him having 4 for 20. So I'm going to actually roll with Downs here. I think Downs in the matchup against the Titans. I like the divisional matchup. The Titans give it up through the air more so than on the ground. So I think it's a tougher day maybe for Jonathan Taylor, or excuse me, not Jonathan Taylor, who's out for 2-3 weeks now. Zach Moss. It's going to be a tougher day, I feel like, for Zach Moss. I think we see a lot of Pittman and a lot of Downs. Downs had like 12 targets last week, and, it wasn't a huge game. I could see him having a better game this week. So if you need upside in any shape or form, I'm going to roll with Josh Downs. But if you're looking for actually like just a safe floor of like, I know this guy's going to get me like 5 points, I actually might go with Puka. But it hasn't been that good. Every point counts. Yeah, it does, Raf. Yeah, it does. Morning, Joker from SoCal Ball Nerd. Kicker questions. Love it. Yeah, fuck yeah. And Art Whistler, shout out to you, my man. What up? Yeah, I finally figured out how to work the comments. Jesus Christ. Only took, what are we, took 13 weeks of running these live streams. I finally figured out how to run the goddamn comment thing. Art Whistler, I got to sit one. 12 team PPR. Ridley, Puka, Olave, Kamara, Evans. So I fucked this up last time when you asked me this. I was telling you who to start when I'm realizing you were asking who to sit. And I think that's a tough one. My instinct is Olave. I generally don't like starting Olave and Kamara, but ever since Michael Thomas went out, it feels like Carr is finally starting to use Chris Olave more in like the first quarter. And Calvin Ridley can be very boom or bust, obviously. I think the thing with Olave is the Lions defense, though, they're really not that great. You really got me here. Yeah, I'm gonna roll with basically, like, out of them, who has the most volatility for boomer bust, or to have like a really bad game, and it does feel like it's Puka Nakua right now because of what's going on with the Rams and just kind of the way they're moving the ball and how weirdly the wide receivers were just like not involved. Yeah, I think, and Art says I was leaning Puka. You know what? I'm gonna roll with that too. I think Puka Nakua is the right answer here. Olave, assuming that he's available. I know he had a thing with the concussion, didn't he? Where he like was popped, but he was going crazy in the last week's game. Before that injury, forced him out of the game. So if he's available and back in, he is expected to suit up despite the concussion, fully clear concussion protocol. Yeah, you got to roll with Olave in that matchup. So I'm benching Puka. Final answer. Thanks, Joker. I got my QB on bye. Yeah, lots of QBs on bye this week. I got a IDP league where I have Josh Allen on bye, but it's also a super flex, and I've just been rolling one quarterback the whole year. So this week I'll be rolling no quarterback. So we'll see how that works for me. I need to start Matthew or Minshew. Who the fuck? I'm like confused by who you mean by Matthew. Oh, Stafford, I'm assuming. Oh yeah, I mean, I would roll with Stafford. That's like easy decision for me. I like Minshew. The thing is, I would love to say Minshew and be like, oh, Minshew mania, the mustache, da, da, da. That would just be a very emotional play. There's no way in my mind that I see Minshew going on a road game to the Titans and outscoring Matt Stafford, who has a home game against the Browns. Yeah, no, I'm gonna go with Stafford there. Stafford just has like the more complete game in terms of being an NFL quarterback. So yeah, I'm gonna roll with Stafford in a home matchup over Minshew on the road. All right, we'll get back into a couple questions here. Thank you all for joining in and watching and dropping some comments. Super appreciate you guys getting up early with me. That's always nice. I've actually been up for like hours and hours now, but it is what it is. Yeah, lots of Puka Nakua questions and T. Higgins questions, I feel like, are the most popular ones today. Like Puka Nakua or Cooper Cup. I mean, I know it's been bad for Cooper Cup, but if he's playing, I'm playing him. George Pickens or T. Higgins. I'm gonna roll with George Pickens. It's really gross, but I need to see it from T. Higgins, like with Browning. I don't know what's going on with that. And then yeah, in terms of your earlier Downs Nakua question, heavy. I honestly, I think I would switch it up and not stack. I feel like I would be trying to play both sides of it because it's like if Minshew does have a good game, then Downs should have a good game too. And then, vice versa. Like, okay, maybe it hurts that I didn't start Puka Nakua, but at least I started Stafford and I got all those points. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. And then if it doesn't end up being Puka today, because it could easily be Cooper Kupp or, we saw it could be Kyron Williams or Tyler Higbee or fuck, it could even be Tutu Atwell's day. That's the thing with Stafford is because he's a veteran quarterback and I feel like a more complete quarterback, he is not going to just hyper target Michael Pittman and Josh Downs the way that Minshew will. So it feels like Downs could just as easily have as good of a day, if not a better day than Puka Nakua, while simultaneously Matt Stafford would still be the better play over Minshew. Both of those things to me can be true at the same time. Oh. Okay, here we go. This is why you don't be overreactionary in fantasy. Some dude in my league, don't know why for the life of me, dropped A-Shane. I snatched him up, but I have Derrick Henry and Zach Moss starting. Should I hold off on starting A-Shane over Henry? Yeah, you should, but I would start him over Zach Moss. I like Zach Moss, but that Titans matchup on the road is tougher, I think, than people think. It could end up being like a gross, efficiency game for Zach Moss, where if he doesn't get in the end zone, you're going to be disappointed. So if I want upside, like I'm going to roll with Devon Achane and Derrick Henry there, and I'm going to leave Zach Moss on the bench. I know Zach Moss was excellent earlier this season, but I think it's important to remember he's still like replacement level player who, and replacement level players in the NFL are extremely capable and high level athletes. They can definitely come back and have great games, but what makes the greats is the consistency, time and again across seasons and years. Uh, and that, is very few and far between. So it's funny how people can be so reactionary to where it's like, oh, this guy isn't performing every single game. Well, it's like, yeah, most players don't. In fact, like 90% of players like have bad games. There's like so few players across NFL history that were like never bad. And even those players had bad games. The Jerry Rices of the world and the Walter Paytons of the world had their bad games too. And if fantasy football had been more prevalent and existed back then, you would have had, I think, some people being more reactionary and being like, oh, Walter Payton, he's not that good, I'm going to trade him, and then regretting it for years and years. Sorry for overcomplicated. It wasn't overcomplicated at all. You asked two questions and they were related. Not complicated at all. Easy peasy. Complicated is when you start being like these fucking dudes that are like throw a picture of their entire roster in. They don't tell you the league or the league size, their record. They don't tell you the format, none of that shit. And they're like, set my lineup for me. It's like, the fuck? Just like no context. And yeah, going back and forth with things in your head with fantasy football is definitely a way to drive you crazy. On like a flip side, I've almost found that like at a certain point, I have to like set my lineups and then just kind of walk away from it. So one of the things I used to do is I always used to do my shopping on like Saturdays to get it out of the way so that Sundays I can relax. Now I've kind of flipped it around because of my schedule lately, where Saturdays have been my relax day because I do these live streams in the morning. And then I'm like, okay, well, I'm already up. I did my live stream. By the time this ends, it's kind of perfect timing to where, the stores are just opening. So I go do my shopping, and it actually stops me from like being on my phone and tinkering for fucking 2 hours before the games. I still make sure to make it home by 12:30 so I can just, double check injuries and shit rolling in, so that's maybe something like set an alarm for 12:30 so you can jump back in and just double check your injuries, maybe make some last minute decisions, but for the most part, like, set it and forget it today. Like, you got to try and find some other things to do until kickoff. Smoke them if you got them. The other thing I'll say too is all of your lineup decisions today should absolutely be based on, your record and the record of the opponent facing you, but more importantly, the lineup of the person facing you. So last week, and I've mentioned this on a couple streams now, last week we had the benefit of having a lot of information coming into Sunday because we had 4 games ran already. We had all the 3 Thursday Thanksgiving games and the Friday game. So you had 4 games, 8 teams that had already played. And what that meant was that for most people, you either had players in those games that over or underperformed, or your opponent had players in those games that over or underperformed. And so now, similarly, this week, with all of the bye weeks, you should definitely be looking at your opponent and seeing, what does my opponent need today to beat me? So if they need a quarterback, be a dick. Go pick up the best. You don't need to do the thing where you drop every quarterback to block them. I mean, you could do that if you really want to be evil and your league allows that kind of thing. But usually what I'll do is just go pick up the best option, just kind of force them into a bad choice as opposed to no choice at all. So, I'll go pick up and be like, yeah, I just wanted another quarterback to stash for next week or whatever it is. I'll make up whatever excuse I need. But I'll go pick up the best, if Stafford or Minshew's out there on waivers and the next best guy is Kenny Pickett, well, fuck yeah, let me go. Even if I have two quarterbacks already, let me go grab Stafford or Minshew just for today and drop one of these bench running back wide receivers that isn't going to crack my lineup and isn't going to crack my opponent's lineup, more importantly. So, strategically aligning yourself because there's so many bye weeks. Also just looking like, is this opponent even active right now? Is this someone who's like actively setting a lineup, or am I going to be lucky enough that they have like 3-4 bye weeks in their starting lineup? And at this point, like, I should not be. I just need to have a very easy baseline to win this matchup. Don't go for, guys like A-Shane or Puka Nacua, these like high volatility, even a Calvin Ridley who could like have a total stinker out of nowhere. These high volatility guys are going to be riding my pine, and the guys that I know for sure are getting 5 to 10 fantasy points no matter what. Come hell or high water, this guy's going to get me 10 fantasy points. All those guys are going in my lineup. So know your opponent, know your matchup, know your record, know the situation. It's awareness. We get on these coaches in the NFL for having situational awareness. You need to have situational awareness about your fantasy football team and how to manage that. The way I manage my team right now in the world heavyweight league, my main wrestling theme league, I'm like down bad in that league. I need 2 wins to even have a chance at the playoffs, and I need somebody else to lose. Not twice. I just need them to lose one time. So they can lose either this week or next week, and I have to win out. And I can sneak into getting the 6th playoff spot. So it's like the way I'm managing that team versus the way I'm managing my team that is fucking like, I always forget the record because there's like the stupid median thing. It's like 15-7 or whatever. It's a winning team. It's top 3 in the league. The way I'm managing that team is very different from the way I'm managing my team that's struggling. The way I'm making those lineup decisions. The opponent I have in that league also is going to be starting Bailey Zappi against me because that was the best quarterback he could get off waivers because he's the Lamar Jackson owner. So it's like a lot of those things are going hand in hand into how I am making my decisions, where it's like, that's why I don't want to take out any of the safe running backs per se, even a Brian Robinson, where it's like, I don't necessarily see him having a huge upside game, but I also don't see any way he doesn't get 10 points. Like, that's why it's like, I could see a world where Jerome Ford on the road against the Rams has almost as bad a game as A-Shane if he were to get knocked out on the first play of the game. But the upside for A-Shane exists in such a way that I obviously don't see for any of the Browns today. To what you're saying about every consistency equating greatness, yeah, Larry Fitzgerald comes to mind. Larry Fitzgerald is literally like a generational Hall of Fame wide receiver, that has been, I don't think he may never be replicated in a sense of like the size and speed and hands and all the things that went together to make Larry Fitz. And the fact that he got it done for so long with bum ass quarterbacks. Like the closest thing we have in the modern day is DeAndre Hopkins. And he never disappointed, dropped very few passes, always went under the radar. Yeah, exactly. Larry Fitzgerald, ironically enough, was also the reason I was so in on Adam Thielen at the beginning of the year. And it's because in my first years of playing fantasy, I would often overlook veteran players, especially ones that were extremely long in the tooth. This was Larry Fitzgerald, not at the height of his powers anymore. In fact, this was Larry Fitzgerald maybe 5 years after the Super Bowl run for the Cardinals. So, when he was just still out there being Larry Fitz, getting 60 for 900, 1,000 yards and 6 to 8 touchdowns. So, um, you know, for fantasy, I would often overlook him. And then my buddy, who's in my main league with me, shout out to Cody, he would always draft and start Larry Fitz and Delaney Walker and these like old, veteran, uh, you know, pass tread guys, and then they would crush. And then he would end up moving on from them eventually. But like the way Adam Thielen destroyed the beginning of the year, he probably helped you get to the fantasy playoffs. And then if you got caught holding the bag on him, I mean, you should have kind of known better. I traded him. I had him in my main league. He helped me win many matchups, and then I traded him ultimately. And it honestly it feels like that trade is like I'm losing it, but I could still end up winning it. Because Joe Burrow got hurt right after, but I traded for Tyler Boyd and Jerome Ford because I do really like Jerome Ford down the stretch as a sleeper running back, like league-winning running back option, especially if the Browns can kind of get their shit together. They get, I think it's Chicago, New York Jets, and Texans in weeks 14, 15, 16 or something like that, or 15, 16, 17, whatever it is now for fantasy championships. Yeah, that's what it is. 15, 16, 17. They get here, I'll just pull it up and so I can like say it proper. So yeah, the whole reason I wanted Jerome Ford, yes, week 15, Chicago, week 16 at Houston, week 17, New York Jets. So those are very good running back matchups to have down the stretch. But yeah, like, you got to be able to piece it together with guys. The Larry Fitzgeralds of the world rarely exist. And when you have them, it's like you're not finding dudes like that just, wherever. Joint in hand, cheers. Yeah, always. I mean, I'm up in Canada here, especially I'm up in Quebec. So it's legal all across the country. There's like weed stores even, but they're on strike right now, hilariously enough, because the ones in Quebec are like government run the way that well, uh, so in Ontario and in some provinces, like the way they sell liquor is actually exclusively through the government, which is hilarious. And nobody bats an eye because it really doesn't matter. It's just that's like the stores just aren't. They're kind of they're considered crown corporations, is what it called. So it's like they're corporations, but that work directly for the government. It is kind of shady, but I mean, Canada works a little bit different, but bottom line is the weed stores here in Quebec kind of work the same. But because of that, like technically the employees are supposed to like get paid better and everything. They had like a whole strike and that's still going on. So you actually can't really go to the weed stores in Quebec right now. So I just order all my shit. We'll get a couple comments here and then we will get on out of here. See what I can find. Oh yeah, Flacco being the quarterback for the Browns in 2023. That is hilarious. So actually also it gives me hope for Jerome Ford going forward and for the rest of the way basically that he's going to be available. Not available, that he's going to be much better, than he's been. A-Shane or Brees. A-Shane. Pick 3 PPR. Gibbs, Kyron Williams, Brian Robinson, Zach Moss. I'm rolling with Gibbs, B-Rob, and Kyron. I'm actually going to bench Moss. Garrett Wilson, Christian Watson, George Pickens. I'm gonna. Oh, I get to pick 2 of them. I'm gonna go with Christian Watson and Wilson. Ooh, that didn't feel good. Let's go check in on the actual network, just see if there's anything floating over there. If not, we might actually cut out a little bit early because my dog is staring at me. I don't really see anything. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the same type of questions today, and that's to be expected with so many teams on a bye week. And again, the last thing, you know what? I'll just recap what I was saying, to use this league as an example. Let's pull it up. So I'm facing the number 4 seed. And this is that league where I need to win out. And again, it's like, I'm starting. I have a big flex decision to make, is what it is. And I'm probably going to end up rolling with either Greg Dortch or Noah Brown over Samaje Perine. So even though I like that matchup, that's probably where I'm at. But the bottom line here is of what I was wanting to say is, so I had Cowboys kicker, they got 15 points. He had Cowboys defense, they got 0 points. So obviously that's not going to decide the whole matchup, but it could decide, like, yeah, okay, if I was in a situation where I had a Devon A-Shane and maybe a bit more of a consistent player, then maybe I would go with the more consistent guy. But otherwise, you're gonna have to definitely go with some upside plays depending on your record and your team and how everything's working. So, and again, the biggest thing is go look at what your opponents have going on. So if your opponents have a bunch of bye weeks, yes, okay, fine. Come here. You want to be the co-host? Come here. Little co-host. All right. So, if your opponent has a bunch of bye weeks going on, and a bunch of missing roster spots and they're not active, don't be trying to get cute and start a bunch of upside shots. Just go with your studs, go with your guys that are going to get you your 5 to 10 consistent points. But then if you're down big, or you need the huge upside, A-Shane should be in all of your upside lineups. That's kind of, how I'm making those decisions. Anyways, this little vixen being a huge pain in the butt, my little co-host here, Rocky, I'm going to go take her for a walk. Shout out to all of you guys in the streams. Shout out to Heavy, Art Whistler, SoCal Ball Nerd, and my boy Raphael Quinton. Thank you guys all for dropping comments. Thank you everyone for watching the stream. We're going to cut out a little bit early today. I will catch you guys all on the flip side.
He's running down the middle by the 50. He's at the 30. He's bare-chested and banging his chest. Now he runs the opposite way. He runs at the 50. He runs at the 40. The guy is drunk, but there he goes. The 20. They're chasing him. They're not going to get him. Waving his arms, bare-chested. Somebody stop that man. Here comes